The January wind cut through downtown Austin like a blade, carrying the scent of distant rain across the Colorado River. Inside courtroom 4B of the Travis County Family Court, the air hung thick with tension and the faint smell of old wood polish. Judge Patricia Morrison adjusted her reading glasses, her weathered face betraying nothing as she surveyed the packed gallery. This custody hearing had attracted more attention than most. When a billionaire cattleman fights for guardianship of his orphaned nephew, people take notice. Garrett Sullivan sat at the plaintiff's table with the confidence of a man who'd never lost anything that mattered. His custom-tailored navy suit probably cost more than most people earned in 6 months, and his silver bolo tie caught the fluorescent lights with every slight movement. At 52, he carried himself with the swagger of old Texas money. Shoulders broad, jaw squared, boots polished to a mirror shine beneath the table. His attorney, Marcus Chen, shuffled through documents with practiced efficiency, occasionally leaning in to whisper strategy. Across the aisle, social worker Diana Martinez sat beside 7-year-old Liam Parker. The boy wore a pressed white shirt that seemed too large for his thin frame, and dark sunglasses that couldn't quite hide the healing scars around his eyes. His small hands gripped the armrests of his chair, knuckles white with tension. Diana had been Liam's caseworker for 3 months now, since the night that changed everything, and she'd grown protective of the quiet child who'd lost so much. "All rise," the bailiff announced as Judge Morrison returned from her chambers after the lunch recess. The assembled crowd shuffled to their feet, the sound of movement echoing off the high ceilings. Garrett's supporters, ranch hands, business partners, members of the Austin Cattlemen's Association, filled the right side of the gallery. On the left sat teachers from Liam's school, neighbors from his parents' subdivision, and a handful of advocates from the Texas Foundation for Blind Children. Judge Morrison settled into her seat with a heavy sigh. "Please be seated. We'll continue with the testimony of Mr. Sullivan." She gestured to Garrett, who stood and approached the witness stand with measured steps, his boots clicking against the hardwood floor. He placed his hand on the Bible, his voice steady and clear as he took the oath. Marcus Chen rose from his seat, buttoning his jacket. "Mr. Sullivan, can you describe your relationship with your late sister, Rebecca Parker, and her husband, Thomas?" Garrett's expression softened, a performance Diana recognized immediately. "Rebecca was my baby sister, 6 years younger than me. When our parents passed, I helped raise her, made sure she got into UT Austin, walked her down the aisle when she married Tom." His voice caught slightly and he paused. "They were good people, the kind who volunteered at food banks, coached Little League. Losing them has been..." He shook his head as if words failed him. "And Liam? That boy is all I have left of Rebecca." Garrett's eyes found the child across the courtroom. "I've known him since the day he was born, changed his diapers, taught him to ride his first pony, took him to Rangers games. He's family. More than that, he's my responsibility now." Diana watched Liam's small body tense at his uncle's words. The boy's head tilted slightly, as if listening for something beneath the surface of the testimony. She'd learned to read his body language over the past months, the way he leaned back when uncomfortable, how his fingers tapped against his leg when he was processing something difficult. Chen continued, "Mr. Sullivan, can you outline the resources you're prepared to provide for Liam's care?" Garrett straightened in his seat. "I own the Red River Ranch, 23,000 acres in the hill country, been in our family for 4 generations. Annual revenue last year was north of $40 million. I've already contacted the best pediatric ophthalmologists in the country, doctors at Johns Hopkins, Bascom Palmer in Miami, the Wilmer Institute. Whatever it takes to restore Liam's sight, or if that's not possible, to ensure he has every adaptive technology and educational resource available." He leaned forward, his voice taking on a rehearsed earnestness. "I've also begun renovations on the ranch house, widening doorways, installing tactile pathways, converting the ground floor study into a bedroom so he won't need to navigate stairs. I've hired Sarah Chen, a specialist in orientation and mobility training, and I'm in discussions with the Texas School for the Blind about their outreach programs." The gallery murmured approvingly. Judge Morrison made notes on her pad, her pen scratching across paper. Diana glanced at the opposing counsel's table, where County Attorney Lisa Reynolds sat with a thin folder of documents. The state's case against Garrett was weak. There simply weren't better options. Liam's parents had been only children, both sets of grandparents deceased. Garrett Sullivan was the logical choice, the only living relative with means and motivation. Chen walked back to his table, retrieving a thick binder. Your Honor, I'd like to submit Exhibit G, financial statements demonstrating Mr. Sullivan's net worth and ability to provide for Liam's needs indefinitely. Additionally, Exhibit H contains letters of recommendation from 12 community leaders, including State Senator Patricia Whitmore and Austin Police Chief Michael Rodriguez. Judge Morrison accepted the documents from the bailiff. Noted and admitted, she looked to the county attorney. Ms. Reynolds, do you have questions for the witness? Lisa Reynolds stood slowly. She was younger than Chen, maybe 35, with the slightly rumpled appearance of someone who carried too heavy a caseload. Mr. Sullivan, you mentioned teaching Liam to ride. Did you spend much time with him before the accident? Every chance I got, Garrett replied smoothly. Rebecca and Tom lived in Westlake, only 40 minutes from the ranch. Liam would visit most weekends, sometimes stayed the whole summer. He loved the horses, loved watching the cattle drives. I was teaching him the business. Most weekends, Reynolds repeated. So you were very close as an uncle and nephew can be. Reynolds consulted her notes. Isn't it true that Child Protective Services conducted a home study and found your ranch, while certainly luxurious, somewhat isolated for a child with special needs? The nearest hospital is 47 miles away. The closest school for visually impaired students is in Austin, over an hour's drive. Garrett's jaw tightened slightly. I addressed that in my care plan. I've already hired a full-time nurse with pediatric experience. I'm prepared to drive Liam to school daily, or arrange for him to board during the week if that's better for his education. Money isn't an object here, Ms. Reynolds. Liam's welfare is. How convenient that money isn't an object. Reynolds' tone sharpened. Mr. Sullivan, what was your relationship like with Thomas Parker, your brother-in-law? A flicker of something crossed Garrett's face. Irritation, maybe, or something darker. Tom was a good man, a good husband to my sister, a good father to Liam. But you didn't always think so, did you? Isn't it true that you opposed Rebecca's marriage to Thomas Parker? Marcus Chen shot to his feet. Objection, Your Honor. Relevance? I'm establishing the witness's relationship with the deceased parents, Reynolds countered. It speaks to his motivation and credibility. Judge Morrison considered this. I'll allow it, but make your point quickly, Ms. Reynolds. Reynolds turned back to Garrett. Mr. Sullivan? Garrett shifted in his seat, his composure cracking slightly. Tom came from humble beginnings, worked his way through college on scholarships, started his engineering firm from nothing. I worried Rebecca was marrying beneath her station, but I was wrong. Tom proved himself. He built that company into something valuable, provided well for my sister. I came to respect him. Respect him enough to partner in business ventures. We explored some joint projects, real estate development, water rights purchases. Tom had a good head for business. And these ventures, they were successful? Garrett hesitated, and Diana caught the pause. Some more than others. Specifically, didn't you and Thomas Parker invest jointly in the Brushy Creek development project 3 years ago? An investment that lost nearly $8 million when the deal collapsed? Chen stood again. Your Honor, I fail to see how decade-old business dealings relate to Mr. Sullivan's fitness as a guardian. Getting to that, Reynolds promised. Mr. Sullivan, you sued Thomas Parker over the Brushy Creek losses, didn't you? The courtroom had gone silent. Garrett's hands gripped the witness stand edge. That was a business matter. We settled out of court. It had nothing to do with family. A business matter that created enough animosity that you and Thomas Parker didn't speak for 18 months, according to Rebecca's own emails. Reynolds produced a document, emails in which she expressed concern that her husband and brother's feud was tearing the family apart. We reconciled, Garrett said flatly. Whatever differences Tom and I had, we put them aside. For Rebecca, for Liam, Reynolds let the statement hang in the air. When exactly did you reconcile? About 6 months before the accident. 6 months. Reynolds walked slowly back to her table. Mr. Sullivan, where were you on the night of September 14th? The question landed like a thunderclap. Garrett's eyes narrowed. I was at the ranch. The night of the accident, you mean? I was home when I got the call from the hospital. And you can verify this? I was alone. I'd given the staff the weekend off. His voice hardened. Are you suggesting something, Ms. Reynolds? I'm simply establishing facts. She paused, glancing at her notes. The accident occurred on Highway 290, approximately 17 miles from your ranch. A single vehicle collision at 9:47 p.m. Thomas Parker was driving, Rebecca was in the passenger seat. The vehicle, a 2019 Audi Q7, left the road at high speed, struck a culvert, and rolled multiple times. Both parents were killed instantly. Liam, in the back seat, survived with severe injuries, including bilateral optic nerve damage that resulted in complete blindness. The clinical recitation of facts seemed to suck the air from the room. Diana put her hand gently on Liam's shoulder, feeling the boy tremble. His small face had gone pale beneath the sunglasses. The investigating officer's report indicated that Thomas Parker had a blood alcohol content of 11, Reynolds continued, above the legal limit. Witnesses at the restaurant where the Parkers ate dinner that evening stated Thomas had consumed several drinks. Is that consistent with the Thomas Parker you knew? Garrett leaned back slightly. Tom liked his whiskey, but he wasn't a drunk. I was as shocked as anyone to hear he'd driven impaired. You were shocked? Reynolds repeated. She turned toward Judge Morrison. Your Honor, I have no further questions at this time, but I reserve the right to recall this witness. Judge Morrison nodded. Mr. Sullivan, you may step down. She checked the clock on the wall. Nearly 4 p.m. We'll hear from one more witness before we adjourn. Ms. Martinez, is Liam prepared to testify? Diana stood, her hand still on Liam's shoulder. The boy had gone rigid. Your Honor, given Liam's age and trauma, I'd request that we keep this brief and allow him to remain seated where he is, rather than taking the stand. Agreed. Judge Morrison's voice softened as she addressed the child directly. Liam, I'm going to ask you some questions. You don't need to be afraid. Just answer honestly. Can you do that? Liam nodded slowly, his small hands clutching the chair arms even tighter. His voice, when it came, was barely above a whisper. Yes, ma'am. Good. The judge consulted her notes. Liam, do you understand why we're here today? You're deciding if Uncle Garrett can take care of me. That's right, and I want to know how you feel about that. Do you want to live with your uncle? The courtroom held its collective breath. Liam's head tilted downward, his dark glasses reflecting the overhead lights. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, with a voice that carried years beyond his age, I don't know. Judge Morrison leaned forward slightly. You don't know. Can you tell me why? Liam's jaw worked as if chewing on words too difficult to swallow. He says he'll take care of me. He says he has doctors who can maybe fix my eyes. He says I can live on the ranch and have my own horse. And do those things sound good to you? I guess. The boy's voice cracked. But Mom and Dad said Uncle Garrett was angry at them. I heard them fighting about money, about papers Dad wouldn't sign. Mom was crying. Garrett's face had gone stone still. Marcus Chen scribbled furiously on his legal pad. Judge Morrison's expression remained neutral. When did you hear this fighting? Last summer. They thought I was asleep, but I heard them in the kitchen. Uncle Garrett was yelling. He said Dad was going to regret it, said he'd take everything. Objection. Chen was on his feet. Your Honor, this is hearsay from a traumatized child. These alleged conversations cannot be verified, and the child's memory of events from months ago, filtered through trauma, cannot be considered reliable testimony. He's 7 years old, Reynolds shot back, and he's recounting what he personally witnessed. That's not hearsay, it's first-hand testimony. Judge Morrison held up her hand. I'll allow it, but I'm taking the source's age and circumstances into account. Liam, Do you remember anything else from that conversation? The boy's breathing had quickened. Diana could feel his pulse racing where her hand rested on his shoulder. Uncle Garrett said, he said Dad was being stupid, that the ranch land was worth millions and Dad was throwing it away over some principle. Dad said Uncle Garrett cared more about money than family. Then Uncle Garrett left, and Mom held Dad for a long time. The gallery erupted in whispers. Judge Morrison's gavel cracked down twice. Order. We'll have order. She looked at Garrett, whose face had arranged itself into carefully controlled neutrality. Mr. Sullivan, you'll have the opportunity to address these allegations in rebuttal testimony tomorrow. Your Honor, Chen interjected, this is clearly a case of a confused, grieving child conflating various family discussions into a narrative influenced by his current fear and uncertainty. My client's business dealings with Thomas Parker were complex but entirely legitimate. Any heated discussions were in the normal course of, "Save it for tomorrow, Mr. Chen." Judge Morrison cut him off. She turned back to Liam. I have one more question, Liam, and it's important. Do you feel safe with your uncle? The silence that followed was suffocating. Every eye in the courtroom fixed on the small boy in the oversized shirt and dark glasses. His hands had begun to shake. Liam, Judge Morrison prompted gently, do you feel safe? The boy's head turned slightly, as if orienting himself in the space. For someone who couldn't see, he seemed to possess an uncanny awareness of the room's geography. His face angled toward where Garrett sat, 30 feet away across the courtroom divide. Can I ask something? Liam's voice was small but clear. Of course. Is my uncle in the room right now? Diana felt her stomach drop. Judge Morrison exchanged a glance with the bailiff. Yes, Liam. He's sitting at the table to your left about 30 feet away. Liam's small frame went rigid. His right arm slowly lifted, trembling, index finger extended. The dark glasses couldn't hide the tears beginning to track down his face. His finger pointed with devastating precision across the courtroom, directly at Garrett Sullivan. The boy's voice, when it came, carried to every corner of the silent room. That's the man who was driving drunk the night my parents died. The courtroom exploded. The gavel's sharp crack barely cut through the chaos erupting in courtroom 4B. Reporters surged toward the bar separating the gallery from the counsel tables, cameras flashing despite the bailiff's shouted warnings. Garrett Sullivan remained frozen in his seat, his face drained of color, hands gripping the table edge so hard his knuckles had gone white. Marcus Chen was already on his feet, shouting objections that were lost in the pandemonium. Order! I will have order in this court! Judge Morrison's voice rose above the din, her gavel hammering repeatedly against the sound block. Bailiff, clear the gallery. Everyone out except counsel, the parties, and court personnel. Now! The bailiff, a broad-shouldered man named Davis who'd worked this court for 15 years, moved with surprising speed. You heard the judge. Everyone not directly involved in this case out. Press out, spectators out, move it. The exodus took nearly 10 minutes, accompanied by shouted questions from reporters and protests from Garrett's supporters. Diana Martinez held Liam close, feeling the boy's entire body shaking against her. His finger had finally dropped, but his face remained turned toward where Garrett sat. Even through the dark glasses, she could see tears streaming down his cheeks. When the doors finally closed behind the last civilian, leaving only the core participants, Judge Morrison set down her gavel. The silence felt heavy, oppressive. She removed her glasses, pinching the bridge of her nose. Ms. Martinez, take Liam to my chambers. Deputy clerk, go with them. The child shouldn't be in here for this discussion. Diana didn't need to be told twice. She gently guided Liam to his feet, her hand on his back. Come on, sweetie. Let's get you some water. As they passed through the side door into the judge's chambers, a wood-paneled room lined with law books, she heard Chen's voice rising behind them. Your Honor, this is outrageous. The child is clearly confused, traumatized. He can't possibly... The heavy door cut off the rest. Diana settled Liam into a leather chair, kneeling beside him. The deputy clerk, a young woman named Ana Rodriguez, quietly fetched a bottle of water from the small refrigerator in the corner. "Liam," Diana said softly, taking his hand. "Can you look at me?" She immediately corrected herself. "I'm sorry, can you turn your face toward my voice?" The boy complied, his small features twisted in confusion and fear. "Did I do something wrong?" Everyone started yelling. "No, honey. You didn't do anything wrong. But what you said, it's very serious. Do you understand what you told the judge?" Liam's throat worked as he swallowed. "I said Uncle Garrett was driving that night." "You said he was driving drunk. The police report says your father was driving. Do you remember that night, Liam? Do you remember the accident?" The boy's hands began to shake. Diana had learned from the trauma counselor not to push too hard, but this couldn't wait. If Liam had witnessed something that contradicted the official investigation, if Garrett Sullivan had somehow been involved in the deaths of Rebecca and Thomas Parker. "I remember the restaurant," Liam whispered. "Mama let me get chocolate cake. Daddy was laughing. He ordered iced tea. I remember because I asked if I could have some and he said I'd be up all night." His voice dropped. "Daddy doesn't drink when I'm in the car. He told me once that being a parent means always being ready, always being safe. He never drinks when he's driving me." Diana exchanged a glance with Anna, who'd stopped pretending not to listen. The deputy clerk's eyes were wide. "Okay," Diana said carefully. "So your father wasn't drinking at dinner. What happened after? Do you remember leaving the restaurant?" Liam's breathing quickened. "We were walking to the car. It was dark. The parking lot lights were orange. Then Uncle Garrett was there. He was in the parking lot, by his truck. The big black one with the silver bumper." "Garrett was at the restaurant?" "Not inside, just in the parking lot. He and Daddy started arguing. Mama took me to our car, but I could still hear them yelling. Uncle Garrett sounded weird. His words were mushy, like when grown-ups are really tired. Or drunk, Diana thought. What were they arguing about? Papers. Uncle Garrett kept saying Daddy had to sign the papers, that it was family land, family business. Daddy said no, that he'd looked at the contracts and he wasn't signing his name to something dirty. That's the word he used. Dirty. Liam's voice rose slightly. Then Uncle Garrett grabbed Daddy's arm and Daddy pushed him away, and Uncle Garrett said something I couldn't hear, but Daddy got really quiet. The scary kind of quiet. And then what happened? Liam's small hands twisted together. Mama was crying. She didn't want me to see, but I heard her. Daddy came back to the car and got in the driver's seat. But then Uncle Garrett came over to Daddy's window. He was apologizing, saying he'd had too much to drink, that he shouldn't drive home. Could Daddy give him a ride to the ranch? Diana's pulse quickened. Your uncle got in the car? He got in the front passenger seat. Mama moved to the back with me. She buckled me in real tight, tighter than normal. She kissed my forehead and told me she loved me. She was still crying. His voice broke. Why was she crying, Ms. Diana? I don't know, sweetie. Diana's mind raced. If Garrett had been in the car, if he'd been drunk while Thomas was sober, if the accident wasn't what it appeared to be. Liam, do you remember the drive? Do you remember what happened before the crash? The boy's breathing turned ragged. Daddy was driving. Uncle Garrett kept talking, but his words were all wrong, slurry. Mama asked Daddy to stop the car to let Uncle Garrett out, but Daddy said we were almost to the ranch turnoff. Then he stopped, his whole body tensing. It's okay. Take your time. Uncle Garrett said something about knowing what Daddy had found out, about the county inspector, about money changing hands. Daddy told him to shut up, that I was in the car. Uncle Garrett laughed and said maybe I should know what kind of man my father really was. Then Daddy yelled at him. Mama screamed. And then tears were flowing freely now. There was pulling, fighting. I couldn't see because Mama was covering my eyes, but the car started moving bad, jerking. Uncle Garrett was yelling and Daddy was yelling. And the car went off the road and everything was spinning and loud, and then he couldn't continue. His small body shook with sobs. Diana pulled him close, her own eyes stinging. Anna had tears on her cheeks, one hand pressed to her mouth. "I woke up in the hospital," Liam whispered against Diana's shoulder. Everything was dark. "I kept calling for Mama and Daddy, but they never came. Uncle Garrett was there instead. He held my hand and said there'd been an accident, that Mama and Daddy were in heaven, that I'd been hurt and couldn't see anymore, but he'd take care of me. He'd always take care of me. Liam, this is very important. Do you remember Uncle Garrett being hurt? Did he have injuries from the accident?" The boy pulled back slightly, his face scrunched in concentration. His voice sounded normal. He squeezed my hand with both hands. "But the doctors said Mama and Daddy. They said the front of the car was crushed. They said..." He couldn't finish. Diana felt ice in her veins. If both front seat occupants had been killed instantly in a frontal collision, how had Garrett walked away without a scratch? Unless he hadn't been in the front seat. Unless he'd somehow switched places with Thomas's body before emergency services arrived. Unless the whole scene had been staged. The door to the chambers opened. Judge Morrison entered, followed by Lisa Reynolds. The county attorney's face was grim. "Ms. Martinez, I need to speak with you. Anna, stay with Liam for a moment." Judge Morrison gestured Diana into the far corner of the office near the windows overlooking downtown Austin. Rush hour traffic crawled below, brake lights reflecting off the wet streets. The threatened rain had finally arrived. "That child just accused Garrett Sullivan of vehicular manslaughter at minimum," Judge Morrison said quietly. "Possibly second-degree murder if we can prove he intentionally caused that crash. Ms. Reynolds has already called the Travis County DA's office. They're sending investigators." "The original accident report," Diana said urgently. "Did anyone check Garrett's whereabouts? Did anyone verify his statement that he was at the ranch?" "Why would they?" Reynolds interjected. "It appeared to be a straightforward drunk driving fatality. Thomas Parker's blood alcohol was verified. There were no other vehicles involved. No witnesses came forward. The crash reconstruction team determined Parker was traveling approximately 75 miles per hour when he left the roadway. All the evidence pointed to an impaired driver losing control. But if Garrett was in the car, if he and Thomas were fighting for control of the wheel, then Thomas's BAC becomes relevant in a different way," Judge Morrison finished. "Not as the drunk driver, but as evidence of impairment that made him vulnerable. Evidence that could have been introduced or planted post-mortem." The three women looked at each other, the implications sinking in. "The crime scene photos," Diana said. "The positioning of the bodies. If Garrett moved Thomas after the crash, there might be evidence. Lividity patterns, blood spatter, something." Reynolds was already pulling out her phone. "I'm calling Detective Sarah Chen at APD. She's a friend, good investigator, worked vehicular homicide for years before moving to major crimes. If there's anything in that case file that doesn't add up, she'll find it." "We need to keep Liam safe," Judge Morrison added. "If Sullivan realizes what the boy remembers, that child becomes a threat to him. Ms. Martinez, you're moving Liam to a secure location tonight. No one, and I mean no one, knows where he is except you, me, and whoever Detective Chen assigns for protection." "What about the custody hearing?" Diana asked. "Suspended pending criminal investigation. I'm issuing an emergency order placing Liam in state protective custody. Sullivan's visitation rights are revoked effective immediately." Judge Morrison moved toward her desk, already drafting the order in her mind. "Ms. Reynolds, file for an emergency injunction preventing Sullivan from leaving Travis County. I don't care what strings you have to pull." Through the door, they could hear raised voices. Marcus Chen was apparently still arguing his client's innocence. Judge Morrison's jaw set. "Time to face the music. Ladies, remember, we show no cards until we have to. As far as anyone knows right now, this is about a traumatized child's confused memories. We investigate quietly." They filed back into the courtroom. Garrett had regained some composure, his face now arranged in an expression of wounded innocence. Marcus Chen stood beside him, clearly in full damage control mode. "Your Honor." Chen began the moment the judge took her seat. My client is devastated by the child's confusion. Liam has been through tremendous trauma. He lost his parents, his eyesight, his entire world in one terrible night. It's not surprising that his memories are fractured, that he's trying to make sense of the senseless by creating narratives that give him someone to blame other than his beloved father. Mr. Chen, with all due respect, Your Honor, what we've witnessed is a classic case of childhood traumatic displacement. Liam is redirecting his anger and grief toward a convenient target, a family member who represents authority and control. The psychological literature is clear on this phenomenon. Children who survive accidents that kill their parents often create alternative explanations, alternative culprits as a coping mechanism. Are you quite finished? Judge Morrison's voice could have cut glass. Chen faltered. Your Honor, I merely wish to... Mr. Sullivan, stand up. Garrett rose slowly, his expression wary. For the first time since Diana had known him, he looked uncertain. Judge Morrison's gaze was unflinching. Mr. Sullivan, I'm suspending these custody proceedings pending further investigation. I'm placing Liam Parker in state protective custody effective immediately. You are not to contact the child directly or indirectly. You are not to contact any witnesses or parties to this case. Do you understand? Your Honor, you can't be serious. Garrett's voice held an edge now, the smooth charm cracking. That boy is confused. I'm his only family. You're letting the fantasies of a traumatized 7-year-old override. I'm protecting a minor child who has made serious allegations under oath. Judge Morrison cut him off. Allegations that will be investigated thoroughly. If you're innocent, Mr. Sullivan, then you have nothing to fear from the truth. Garrett's face flushed. I want to see him. I want to talk to Liam. Explain that he's confused, that no contact means no contact. Bailiff, please escort Mr. Sullivan from the courthouse. Mr. Chen, your client is to remain in Travis County until further notice. If he attempts to leave, I'll issue a warrant for his arrest on suspicion of obstruction. Obstruction? Chen's voice rose. Your Honor, this is outrageous. You have no evidence, no grounds. I have a child witness who has provided testimony that directly contradicts the official accident report. That's grounds enough for a preliminary investigation. Court is adjourned. We'll reconvene when the Travis County DA decides whether to file charges. The gavel fell with finality. Garrett Sullivan's face transformed into something ugly, rage barely contained beneath a veneer of civilization. His eyes found Diana through the open door of the judge's chambers, where she stood with Liam. The look he gave her was pure venom. Then Bailiff Davis was there, hand on Garrett's elbow, guiding him toward the exit. Marcus Chen followed, already on his phone, undoubtedly calling in favors and preparing for a legal battle. Diana turned back to Liam, who still sat in the leather chair, small and vulnerable. She made a decision then, one that would change everything. Liam, honey, we're going somewhere safe tonight. Somewhere your uncle can't find you, okay? The boy nodded slowly. Is someone finally going to believe me about what really happened? Diana knelt beside him, taking both his hands in hers. Yes, sweetheart. Someone is going to investigate. Someone is going to find the truth. What she didn't say, what she couldn't say yet, was that the truth might be even darker than anyone imagined. Because if Garrett Sullivan had orchestrated his sister's death, if he'd manipulated a crime scene and framed his dead brother-in-law for drunk driving, then he'd already proven he would do anything, absolutely anything, to get what he wanted. And right now, the only thing standing between Garrett and a multi-million-dollar inheritance was one blind 7-year-old boy who remembered too much. The safe house sat on the eastern edge of Austin, in a neighborhood of modest ranch homes where nobody asked questions. Detective Sarah Chen had arranged it within 2 hours of Lisa Reynolds' call, a nondescript 2-bedroom with bars on the windows, and a security system that would alert APD the moment anyone came within 20 feet of the property. Diana had driven there through the rain, taking a deliberately circuitous route, checking her mirrors every few blocks. Liam sat in the back seat, silent and exhausted. Now, at nearly midnight, Diana stood in the kitchen drinking cold coffee, while uniformed officer Marcus Webb maintained watch from the living room window. Liam had finally fallen asleep in the back bedroom, curled under a thick blanket. His small body finally relaxed after hours of tension. Diana's phone buzzed. Detective Chen's name appeared on the screen. Martinez. We've got something. Chen's voice was tight with controlled excitement. I pulled the original accident file. Took some persuading. The case was closed, archived downtown. But I found it. And the crime scene photos don't match Sullivan's statement. He told investigators he was home at the ranch when he got the call about the accident. Said he drove straight to the hospital, arrived around 11 p.m. But Diana, there's a photo from the scene taken by the first responder at 10 or 4 p.m. In the background, partially obscured by the ambulance, there's a black pickup truck. Diana's pulse quickened. Garrett's truck? Can't confirm yet. But it matches the description. Custom black Chevy Silverado with chrome details. Here's what's interesting, that truck isn't mentioned anywhere in the incident report. Not by the state trooper who responded, not by the EMTs, not by anyone. It's just there in the background of one photograph and then it's gone. He was at the scene, Diana breathed. He was there when emergency services arrived. Gets better. I contacted the medical examiner who performed the autopsies on Rebecca and Thomas Parker. Dr. Helen Vasquez. She's retired now, living in San Marcos. I drove down there tonight, showed her the original autopsy photos. Chen paused. She remembers the case. Said something bothered her at the time, but the cause of death was so clear-cut that she didn't pursue it. What bothered her? Thomas Parker's injuries were consistent with driver position, chest trauma from the steering wheel, facial injuries from the deployed airbag. But Rebecca Parker's injuries were wrong. She had massive head trauma, yes, but also defensive wounds on her hands and forearms, bruising consistent with trying to protect herself. Dr. Vasquez said at the time she attributed it to the rollover, the chaos of the crash. But looking at it now, with fresh eyes, it looks like she was trying to protect herself from something inside the car, Diana finished, from someone attacking the driver. Exactly, and there's more. The blood spatter patterns in the front seat. They're inconsistent with both occupants being seated normally at impact. There's transfer evidence suggesting movement of the bodies post-crash. Not much, but enough to raise questions. Diana set down her coffee cup, her hand shaking. Can you prove Garrett moved Thomas's body? Switched their positions? Not definitively, not yet, but I've requested a full forensic review. Got a judge to sign off on exhuming the bodies if necessary. The DA is taking this seriously now, Diana. We're building a case. How long before you can arrest him? Chen's silence was answer enough. We need more. Right now we have suspicious circumstances and a child witness. Defense would tear that apart. We need physical evidence, forensic proof, something that puts Sullivan in that car at the time of the crash. What about witnesses from the restaurant? Someone must have seen them together. I've got uniforms canvassing tomorrow morning. The restaurant was Antonelli's, that Italian place on 290. It was a Thursday night 3 months ago. Most of the staff probably doesn't remember, but we're trying. Diana glanced toward the bedroom where Liam slept. Chen, if Garrett realizes we're investigating, if he figures out that Liam is the key to unraveling his story. That's why the boy stays hidden. Webb will maintain first watch. Jenkins relieves him at 6 a.m. No one goes in or out without my authorization. Chen's voice softened slightly. How's he doing? The kid? Traumatized, scared, but also relieved, I think. Like he's been carrying this weight for 3 months and finally someone believes him. Keep him safe, Diana. We're close to something here. I can feel it. After they hung up, Diana returned to the living room. Officer Webb sat in an armchair near the window, his service weapon visible on his hip. He was young, maybe 28, with the alert posture of someone taking his assignment seriously. Everything okay? He asked quietly. Detective Chen found evidence. They're building a case. Diana sank onto the couch. This is really happening. Garrett Sullivan might actually go down for murder. Might? Webb raised an eyebrow. If that kid's telling the truth, and after 30 minutes with him, I believe he is. Sullivan killed 2 people and tried to frame a dead man. That's not might. That's game over. Unless his lawyers find a way to discredit Liam's testimony. He's 7, blind, traumatized. Defense will argue false memory syndrome, coaching by the state. Anything to make a jury doubt him. Webb's expression darkened. Then we find evidence that speaks for itself. Physical proof that can't be explained away. They sat in silence for a while, listening to rain drum against the windows. Somewhere in the neighborhood, a dog barked. A car passed, its headlights briefly illuminating the living room before fading. Diana must have dozed off because she jerked awake to the sound of her phone buzzing violently against the coffee table. The screen showed 3:47 a.m., an unknown number. She answered warily. Hello? Heavy breathing, then a voice low and rough. You have something that belongs to me. Diana's blood turned to ice. Who is this? You know who this is. I want to talk to the boy. Put him on. Garrett Sullivan. Diana's eyes flew to Webb, who was already on his feet, hand on his weapon. She mouthed the name and he immediately pulled out his own phone, texting rapidly, probably alerting Chen. Mr. Sullivan, you're violating a court order by contacting. Don't play games with me, Ms. Martinez. His voice was harder now, the folksy charm completely gone. That child is confused. He's been through trauma and his memories are unreliable. I just want to help him understand what really happened. By threatening me at 4 in the morning? I'm not threatening anyone. I'm offering help. Liam needs psychiatric care, proper therapy. He's creating false narratives to cope with survivor's guilt. Any competent psychologist would tell you. Any competent investigator would tell you that the accident scene doesn't match your statement. Diana interrupted, her fear converting to anger. That there are inconsistencies in the physical evidence. That your truck was photographed at the scene despite your claim you were at home. The silence on the other end was absolute. Diana could hear her own heartbeat. When Garrett spoke again, his voice had gone deadly quiet. You're making a terrible mistake. Whatever Chen told you, whatever she thinks she found, it's wrong. I loved my sister, I loved Tom. That accident destroyed my family. Is that why you're calling from a burner phone at 4 a.m.? Because you're so confident in your innocence? I'm calling because someone needs to protect that boy from himself, from the lies his broken mind is creating. You think you're helping him. You're setting him up for a lifetime of guilt when the truth comes out, that his father was drunk, that his father caused the crash, that nothing could have prevented what happened. The truth is coming out, Mr. Sullivan, just not the version you've been selling. Listen to me very carefully. His voice dropped even lower. I have resources you can't imagine. Lawyers who make what you saw in court today look like amateur hour. Friends in positions of power who owe me favors. If you continue down this path, if you keep poisoning that child's mind against me, I will bury you. I will bury Chen. I will bury everyone involved in this persecution. That sounds like a threat. It's a promise. I built an empire from Texas, dirt and cattle. You think I can't handle one social worker and a small-town detective? He paused. Last chance, Ms. Martinez. Let me talk to Liam. Let me help him remember correctly, or face the consequences. Diana's hand tightened on the phone. Every instinct screamed at her to hang up to end this conversation. But another part of her, the part that had spent 15 years working in child protective services, that had seen too many powerful men get away with unconscionable acts, that part kept her talking. You want to know what Liam told me tonight, Mr. Sullivan? He remembers you in the parking lot, drunk and belligerent. He remembers you getting into the front seat. He remembers you and his father fighting while the car was moving. He remembers his mother screaming. He remembers everything. The sharp intake of breath on the other end told her she'd struck home. He's a confused child, Garrett repeated, but the conviction had drained from his voice. He's a witness, and his testimony is going to put you away for the rest of your life. Diana hung up before he could respond. Her hands were shaking. Webb was beside her in an instant. Chen's on her way, he said. She's putting out an APB on Sullivan, gonna have patrol units watching his ranch and his downtown office. He makes any move toward this location. The sound of shattering glass cut him off. The front window exploded inward, safety glass spraying across the living room floor. Webb shoved Diana down behind the couch, his weapon drawn, already moving toward the window. "APD, show yourself." No response. Rain and wind poured through the broken window. Webb's radio crackled. Jenkins, the relief officer, was 15 minutes out responding code 3. Diana's first thought was Liam. She crawled toward the bedroom hallway, staying low. Behind her, Webb maintained his position, scanning the darkness outside through the jagged window frame. She reached Liam's room, pushed open the door. The boy was sitting up in bed, his face turned toward the sound of breaking glass, his small hands clutching the blanket. "Ms. Diana?" His voice was terrified. "I'm here, sweetie. We need to move, right now." She grabbed his hand, pulling him from the bed. He stumbled slightly, disoriented without his usual landmarks. Diana guided him into the hallway bathroom, the most interior room, no windows, solid walls. "Stay here. Don't come out until I tell you." She started to close the door, but Liam's hand shot out, grabbing her wrist with surprising strength. "Don't leave me, please." Diana's heart broke, but she had to check on Webb, had to assess the threat. "I'll be right back, I promise. Lock the door behind me." She pulled away, heard the lock click into place. Back in the living room, Webb had moved to the side of the broken window, his flashlight sweeping the yard. "Brick," he reported, gesturing to a chunk of concrete lying among the glass shards. "No shooter, just vandalism. Message delivery." Diana saw it then, wrapped around the brick with a rubber band, a piece of paper. Webb carefully retrieved it, unfolding the note with gloved hands. 5 words in block letters. "You were warned. Last chance." Detective Sarah Chen arrived at the safe house 17 minutes after the brick came through the window, her unmarked sedan screeching to a stop in the driveway. She stormed through the front door with 3 uniformed officers behind her, her badge clipped to her belt, her weapon holstered but visible. Rain had plastered her dark hair to her forehead, and her expression could have melted steel. "Webb, report." Officer Webb stood at attention despite the circumstances. Single brick through the front window at 3:52 hours. No shooter, no visible suspect. Threatening note attached. "I secured the interior and the witness. Jenkins arrived 6 minutes ago. He's doing a perimeter sweep now." Chen pulled on latex gloves and examined the note still lying on the coffee table, careful not to touch it directly. "Bag this for prints, and the brick might have paint transfer or fiber evidence." She turned to Diana, who had emerged from the hallway after making sure Liam was secured. "You talked to Sullivan." "It wasn't a question." Diana nodded. "He called from an unknown number at 3:47 a.m. Wanted to speak to Liam, said the boy's memories were false. When I refused, he threatened me. Threatened all of us." She recounted the conversation as precisely as she could remember, watching Chen's face darken with each detail. "Son of a bitch called you and then immediately sent someone to throw a brick through the window." Chen pulled out her phone, dialing rapidly. "This is Chen. I need a warrant for Garrett Sullivan's phone records. Tower dumps for a 3-mile radius around." She rattled off the safe house address. "Between 0345 and 0355 hours. Also needs surveillance footage from every business camera within that radius. Call Judge Morrison if you have to wake her up. This is now obstruction and witness intimidation." She hung up, then immediately dialed again. "It's Chen. Where's Sullivan right now?" A pause. "What do you mean you don't know?" "I ordered surveillance on..." Her jaw clenched. "Find him. Now. And when you do, bring him in for questioning. I don't care what time it is." Diana felt her stomach drop. "You lost him?" The units watching his ranch reported he left at 11 p.m. They followed him to his downtown office, watched him go inside. Building has a parking garage with multiple exits. Somehow he slipped the tail. Chen's frustration was palpable. He's in the wind, with resources and motivation to hurt Liam. Diana's voice came out harder than she intended. "We need to move the boy again. This location is compromised." "Already arranging it?" I've got a secondary location in Round Rock, totally off the books. County Sheriff's Department facility. Secure, monitored, no public record. Chen moved toward the hallway. How's he holding up? Scared, confused, wondering why the man who says he loves him is trying to hurt him. Diana led Chen to the bathroom door, knocking gently. Liam? It's Ms. Diana. I'm here with Detective Chen. We're going to open the door now, okay? The lock clicked. The door opened slowly, revealing Liam sitting on the closed toilet lid, his arms wrapped around himself. His dark glasses had been knocked askew, and Diana could see the surgical scars around his eyes more clearly. The boy looked impossibly small in the harsh fluorescent bathroom light. Chen knelt in front of him, her voice gentling. Liam, I'm Detective Sarah Chen with the Austin Police Department. I'm here to help you. Can you tell me what you heard tonight? Glass breaking. Ms. Diana said to hide. Is Uncle Garrett here? The boy's voice quavered. Is he trying to hurt me? Chen exchanged a glance with Diana. Liam, your uncle isn't here, but we think he might have sent someone to scare us, to try to make us stop investigating what really happened to your parents. That's why we need to move you somewhere even safer. Can you be brave for a little while longer? I don't want to be brave. I just want my mom and dad. Tears began sliding down his face. Why is this happening? Why is Uncle Garrett doing this? Diana moved forward, wrapping her arms around him. Over his head, she mouthed to Chen, We need to end this. Chen nodded grimly. She stood, moving back into the living room, and Diana heard her making more calls, coordinating transport, arranging security, mobilizing resources. When she returned 10 minutes later, her expression was determined. We're moving in 30 minutes. Jenkins will drive you to the Round Rock facility in an unmarked vehicle. Take back roads, no highway. I'll follow in a separate car, maintain visual contact the whole way. She looked at Liam. You'll be safe there, I promise. And while you're safe, we're going to find the evidence we need to make sure your uncle never hurts anyone again. The drive north took nearly an hour, moving slowly through pre-dawn Austin on surface streets, avoiding the interstate entirely. Diana sat in the back of Jenkins's unmarked Crown Victoria with Liam, the boy's hand clutching hers tightly. Chen followed 3 cars back in her own vehicle, her headlights visible in the side mirror. The Round Rock facility turned out to be a nondescript building behind the sheriff's department, originally built as witness protection housing during a major cartel prosecution years ago. It had reinforced doors, bulletproof windows, and a security system that would make Fort Knox jealous. The facility coordinator, a weathered deputy named Tom Reeves, met them at the secured entrance. Chen called ahead. We've got the east wing ready. 2 bedrooms, kitchen, common area. No one gets in without biometric clearance, and I've got deputies rotating watch every 4 hours. Reeves studied Liam with kind eyes. Son, you're probably the most protected kid in Texas right now. Nothing's getting through these walls. Inside, the facility was surprisingly comfortable, more like a small apartment than a jail cell. Diana got Liam settled in one of the bedrooms while Chen and Reeves coordinated security protocols in the hallway. I should hear back on Sullivan's phone records by noon, Chen said when she returned. If we can place him anywhere near that safe house at the time of the brick incident, we've got him for intimidation. Combined with the forensic review of the accident scene, we might have enough for an arrest warrant by end of day. Might? Diana challenged. Sarah, he killed 2 people and has now directly threatened a child witness. What more do you need? I need evidence that will stand up in court against a battalion of expensive lawyers. Chen shot back. I need forensics that can't be explained away. I need witnesses who saw Sullivan at that restaurant getting into the Parker's car. I need... Her phone rang. She glanced at the screen, her expression shifting. It's the forensics lab. They've been processing the original accident scene evidence all night. She answered. Chen here. Diana watched the detective's face as she listened, seeing hope flicker across her features. You're certain? The DNA is conclusive. A pause. And the blood pattern analysis confirms movement of the bodies? Another pause, longer this time. How soon can you have the written report? I need it for the warrant application. When Chen hung up, she was almost smiling. We've got him. The forensics team found skin cells under Rebecca Parker's fingernails, defensive wounds like Dr. Vasquez thought. The DNA matches Garrett Sullivan. His skin, under his sister's nails, consistent with her fighting him off during the assault. Diana felt something loosen in her chest. He was in the car. She fought him. The physical evidence proves it. More than that, the blood spatter analysis shows Thomas Parker's body was moved post-mortem. The pattern of blood flow doesn't match his position when emergency services arrived. Someone repositioned him in the driver's seat after death. Chen's voice was hard with satisfaction. Sullivan staged the entire scene, caused the crash while fighting with Thomas for control of the vehicle. Survived because he was probably braced for impact, then moved Thomas's body to make it look like drunk driving. Probably poured alcohol on the body, contaminated the scene to support the narrative. Can you prove he contaminated the blood alcohol results? The ME found elevated BAC in Thomas's liver tissue that was inconsistent with the stomach contents. At the time, she attributed it to measurement error or individual metabolism differences. But looking at it now with everything else we know, it suggests the alcohol was introduced post-mortem, probably injected or poured down the throat after death. Diana felt sick. He murdered them, staged it, and then showed up at the hospital to comfort the traumatized child who survived, and would have gotten away with it completely if Liam hadn't been in that back seat, if he hadn't heard everything, if he hadn't remembered. Chen's phone buzzed with an incoming text. She read it, then looked up with fierce determination. Judge Morrison is signing the arrest warrant now. We're bringing Sullivan in. What about motive? Why would he kill his own sister? Working theory. The land deal Liam overheard them fighting about. Thomas Parker was the executor of the family trust, Rebecca's inheritance from their parents. Garrett needed Thomas to sign off on selling a section of the family ranch for development. We're talking 200 acres of prime hill country property worth at least $40 million. Thomas refused because he'd discovered Garrett had been bribing county officials to circumvent environmental regulations. If Thomas had gone public with what he knew, Garrett would have faced criminal charges, lost everything. So he killed them both, made it look like an accident. And if Liam hadn't survived, Garrett would have inherited the trust automatically as next of kin. Even with Liam alive, he was positioning himself as guardian to control the boy's inheritance until age 18. Chen's expression turned grim. Classic family annihilator profile. Eliminate the obstacles, seize the assets, maintain the image. A sound from the bedroom made them both turn. Liam stood in the doorway, his small frame silhouetted against the light. His face was turned toward their voices with uncanny precision. Did you say you're going to arrest Uncle Garrett? His voice was small, but steady. For killing my mom and dad? Diana moved to him instinctively, but the boy held up a hand. I heard everything. The walls are thin. He took a shaky breath. He really did it. It wasn't just a bad memory. He really killed them. Chen knelt down to his level. Liam, I know this is hard, but yes, the evidence proves your uncle caused the crash that killed your parents. He's going to be arrested and charged with their murders. You told the truth, and because you were brave enough to speak up, we found the proof we needed. Will I have to testify? In court, I mean. Will I have to talk about it in front of everyone? Probably. But not for a while. And we'll have people there to help you, to make sure you feel safe. Chen's voice was gentle but honest. You're the most important witness we have, Liam. Your testimony combined with the physical evidence is what's going to put him away. The boy processed this silently. Then, good. Because I want him to know that I remember. I want him to know that Mama and Daddy didn't die for nothing, that someone saw what he did. Diana felt tears prick her eyes. This child, this impossibly brave, traumatized 7-year-old, had just sentenced his only living relative to prison, had chosen truth and justice over the comfortable lie that would have given him a home, resources, a future free from the foster system. Chen's phone buzzed again. She glanced at it, her expression hardening. Sullivan's been located. He's at his attorney's office downtown, probably getting coached on what to say when we bring him in. APD is moving to arrest now. She stood. I need to be there. Diana, you stay here with Liam and Deputy Reeves. Don't open this door for anyone but me or someone I specifically authorize. Clear. Crystal. Chen headed for the door, then paused. She looked back at Liam. Your parents would be proud of you, kid. You know that, right? What you're doing, it takes more courage than most adults ever show. Liam's small voice followed her. Just catch him, detective. Make sure he can't hurt anyone else. Count on it. The arrest happened at 7:43 a.m. in the parking garage beneath Marcus Chen's law office on Congress Avenue. Garrett Sullivan was walking toward his truck, flanked by his attorney and a private security consultant, when Detective Chen and 4 uniformed officers surrounded him. The early morning light filtering through the concrete structure cast long shadows across the confrontation. Garrett Sullivan, you're under arrest for 2 counts of first-degree murder, tampering with evidence, and witness intimidation. Chen's voice echoed off the concrete walls as she approached with handcuffs ready. You have the right to remain silent. This is harassment. Marcus Chen stepped between his client and the detective. You have no grounds. Step aside, counselor. Chen held up the warrant, signed by Judge Morrison less than 20 minutes earlier. We have forensic evidence placing your client at the scene of the crash, DNA evidence showing Rebecca Parker fought him before her death, and blood pattern analysis proving he moved Thomas Parker's body post-mortem, plus phone records placing him near a witness intimidation incident at 3:52 this morning. Garrett's face had gone pale. For a moment, Diana, watching the body cam footage later that afternoon in the Round Rock facility, saw raw panic cross his features. Then the mask slammed back into place. I want my lawyer present for any questioning. I'm saying nothing without. You already have your lawyer present, Chen interrupted. And you'll have plenty of time to talk downtown. Turn around, hands behind your back. The moment of truth. Garrett's eyes darted to the exits, calculating distances, odds. The private security consultant, a thick-necked man named Doyle, shifted his weight, hand moving toward his concealed carry. 2 of the uniformed officers immediately drew their weapons. Don't, Chen warned Doyle. You really want to add aiding a fugitive to whatever Sullivan's paying you? Doyle froze. Marcus Chen put his hand on Garrett's shoulder. Don't say anything, not one word. We'll handle this downtown. Garrett Sullivan, billionaire cattleman and murderer, slowly turned around and placed his hands behind his back. The handcuffs clicked into place with a sound like finality. As the officers led him toward the waiting patrol car, he looked directly into the body camera. That boy is disturbed. He needs psychiatric help, not legal proceedings. When this is over, when my name is cleared, I'll make sure he gets the treatment. Save it for the judge. Chen cut him off. You're done manipulating people. Diana paused the footage, looking at Liam sitting beside her on the couch. The boy's face was unreadable behind his dark glasses. Do you want to hear the rest? She asked gently. What else is there? Detective Chen found more evidence. While they were processing Sullivan's truck, they discovered something hidden under the rear seat, a lockbox containing documents related to the land deal, communications with the county inspector, proof of the bribes your father discovered. Also found a burner phone with texts to an unknown contact, arranging for someone to throw that brick through our window. Liam absorbed this silently. So there's proof. Real proof. Not just what I remember. Your memories led them to the proof, Liam. Without your testimony, they never would have looked deeper. Diana chose her next words carefully. The district attorney wants to meet with you next week. Talk about the trial process, what to expect. Your uncle's lawyers are going to fight this hard. I know. The boy's voice was steady despite his trembling hands. Ms. Diana, can I ask you something? Anything. What happens to me now? If Uncle Garrett goes to prison, if he's found guilty, I don't have anyone else. Where do I go? The question Diana had been dreading. She'd spent hours on the phone with child services, exploring options. Foster care seemed inevitable. A blind 7-year-old with severe trauma would be difficult to place, even in the best circumstances. "We're going to find you a good home," she started, the platitude feeling hollow, even as she said it. A knock at the door interrupted them. Deputy Reeves checked the security monitor, then opened it to reveal Detective Chen, and someone Diana didn't recognize. A man in his mid-30s wearing jeans and a leather jacket, with dark hair and eyes that looked like they'd seen too much. He carried himself with the controlled awareness of law enforcement or military. Chen stepped inside, her expression unreadable. "Diana Liam, this is Detective Ryan Cole. He's with the Dallas PD, Cold Case Division. He drove down this morning because he has some information that's relevant to Liam's situation." Ryan Cole moved into the room slowly, his eyes fixed on Liam with an intensity that made Diana protective. "Can I sit down?" he asked quietly. Chen nodded. "Liam, Detective Cole has been investigating a case that connects to your family. To your mother, specifically. I think you need to hear what he has to say." Ryan sat in the chair across from Liam, his hands clasped between his knees. For a long moment he just looked at the boy, his throat working as if struggling with words. "Liam, my name is Ryan. About 8 years ago I knew your mother. Before she married your father, before you were born. We were close. Very close." He paused. "When I heard about the custody case, about what happened to Rebecca, I started looking into old records, DNA databases. I needed to know something for certain." Diana's heart started pounding. She saw where this was going. 3 days ago, I received confirmation from a private lab. "Liam, I'm your biological father. Your mother never told me she was pregnant. She cut off contact, married Thomas Parker, and raised you as his son. I didn't know you existed until I saw your face on the news coverage of the custody hearing." The room went absolutely silent. Liam's small body had gone rigid, his face turned toward Ryan's voice with laser focus. "You're my father?" The boy's voice cracked. "My real father?" "Biologically, yes, but Thomas Parker was your real father in every way that matters. He raised you, loved you, was there for you. I'm the DNA." Ryan's voice was thick with emotion. "But I'm here now, Liam. And if you'll let me, I want to be part of your life. I want to make sure you're taken care of." "Can you prove it?" Diana interjected, her social worker instincts kicking in. "Do you have documentation?" Chen handed her a folder. "DNA test results certified by an independent lab. 97% probability of paternity. Also have hospital records showing Rebecca Parker listed, father unknown, on Liam's original birth certificate before Thomas Parker legally adopted him 6 months after birth." Diana scanned the documents, her mind racing. If this was legitimate, if Ryan Cole was truly Liam's biological father, it changed everything. Custody, guardianship, the entire future trajectory of this child's life. "Why didn't Mom tell you?" Liam asked, his voice small and confused. "Why didn't you know about me?" Ryan's expression was pained. "I was undercover working a dangerous case. Your mother and we ended things because my job was too risky, too unstable. She probably found out she was pregnant after we'd already separated. Maybe she thought it was better for you to have a stable father, a normal family life, instead of someone who might not come home from work one day. And now you want to be my dad?" There was something in Liam's voice Diana couldn't quite identify. Hope, fear, suspicion, all mixed together. "I want to be whatever you need me to be. A father, a guardian, a friend. Someone who makes sure you're safe and loved and have every opportunity to heal from what you've been through." Ryan leaned forward. "Liam, I can't replace Thomas Parker. I won't try, but I can promise you this. I will protect you with everything I have, and I will make sure Garrett Sullivan pays for what he did to your family." 6 months later, the Travis County Courthouse was packed for the final day of testimony in the state of Texas versus Garrett Sullivan. The prosecution had methodically dismantled Sullivan's defense. Forensic experts testified about the DNA under Rebecca's fingernails. Accident reconstruction specialists explained how the crash dynamics proved someone had fought for control of the wheel. Financial analysts traced the bribery scheme that gave Garrett motive to eliminate his brother-in-law. But the moment everyone had been waiting for came on a humid July afternoon, when Diana Martinez gently guided Liam Parker Cole to the witness stand. The boy wore a navy suit that Ryan had bought for the occasion, his dark glasses polished, his small hand gripping the bailiff's arm as he was sworn in. District Attorney James Chen, no relation to the defense attorney, approached carefully. "Liam, can you tell the jury what you remember about the night your parents died?" The courtroom held its breath as Liam spoke. His voice was steadier than it had been 6 months ago, strengthened by therapy and the security of knowing Ryan was in the gallery behind him. He recounted the restaurant, the parking lot confrontation, Garrett getting into the car, drunk and belligerent. He described the fighting, his mother's screams the moment everything went dark. "And you're certain," Chen pressed gently, "that it was your uncle fighting with your father for control of the vehicle?" "Yes, sir. I heard Uncle Garrett yelling about papers and money. I heard my dad tell him to stop, that he was going to kill us all. Then the car went off the road." Liam's hands gripped the witness stand rail. "My mom was trying to protect me. The last thing I remember before the crash is her covering my body with hers." Several jurors were crying. Even Judge Morrison looked moved. Marcus Chen's cross-examination was brutal, but ultimately ineffective. He couldn't shake Liam's testimony, couldn't explain away the forensic evidence, couldn't provide an alternative narrative that made sense. When he finally sat down, defeat was written across his face. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. When they returned, the foreman stood with the verdict sheet trembling in his hands. On the count of first-degree murder of Rebecca Parker, guilty. On the count of first-degree murder of Thomas Parker, guilty. On the count of tampering with evidence, guilty. On the count of witness intimidation, guilty. Garrett Sullivan's face crumbled. For the first time since his arrest, the mask fell away completely, revealing the desperate, cornered man beneath. He turned toward where Liam sat with Ryan and Diana, his expression a mixture of rage and disbelief. "You destroyed me," he shouted as bailiffs moved to restrain him. "I gave you everything. I was going to give you a future." Ryan stood, placing himself between Garrett and Liam. "You gave him nothing but nightmares and trauma. But he's going to be okay. He's going to have the life his parents wanted for him, with people who actually love him." As Garrett was led away in handcuffs, already shouting about appeals and injustice, Liam turned his face toward Ryan's voice. "Is it really over?" Ryan knelt beside the boy, taking his small hands. "The trial is over. Sentencing is in 3 weeks, but yes, he's never getting out of prison. You're safe now. And I get to stay with you? For real?" The custody hearing had taken place a month earlier. Ryan's petition for guardianship had been approved, helped by glowing recommendations from Diana, therapists, and even Detective Chen. The judge had called it a miracle emerging from tragedy, a child finding his biological father at the moment he needed one most. "For real," Ryan confirmed. "We're family now. You, me, and that crazy dog you insisted we adopt." Liam's face broke into the first genuine smile Diana had seen since the accident. "Max is not crazy. He's just enthusiastic." Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed, but Ryan shielded Liam from the cameras, guiding him toward the waiting car. Detective Chen intercepted them briefly. "Cole, kid, good work in there. Both of you." She looked at Liam. "Your parents would be incredibly proud. You got justice for them." "Thank you, Detective," Liam said quietly, "for believing me when nobody else did." "Always believe the victims," Chen replied. "That's the job." As they drove away from downtown Austin, Liam asked the question he'd been holding inside for months. "Ryan, would it be okay if I called you Dad?" Ryan's hands tightened on the steering wheel, his vision blurring briefly. I'd like that a lot." "Dad?" Liam tested the word, a tentative smile growing. "Can we get ice cream on the way home?" "Absolutely. Any flavor you want." In the rearview mirror, the courthouse grew smaller. Behind them lay 6 months of investigation, testimony, and painful revelations. Ahead lay years of healing, adjustment, and learning to be a family forged not by blood alone but by choice, courage, and an impossible series of events that had brought them together. Liam Parker Cole would never see his parents again. He would carry the scars, physical and emotional, of that terrible night for the rest of his life. But he would also carry their love, their values, their fierce protection that had kept him alive when everything fell apart. And now, against all odds, he had someone to help him carry that weight. Someone who would make sure Rebecca and Thomas Parker's son grew up knowing he was loved, protected, and believed. Justice, imperfect and incomplete as it always was, had finally been served.